Welcome to Somnus Sagas, where we peel back the layers of history's dreamscape to reveal the raw, unfiltered truth of the past. Tonight, we're stepping into the medieval world of 14th century England. Not the shining armor and chivalrous knights of fairy tales, but the muddy, disease-ridden, bone-wearing reality where survival was a daily gamble. Forget the Hollywood glow of castles and jousts. This is a world where a bad harvest, a cut on your finger, or a single rainstorm could end you. Think you're tough enough to make it through a single day? Let's find out. If you're enjoying these dives into the past, I'd love a quick like or subscribe. It keeps the fire burning for more stories like this. And hey, I'm curious. Where are you listening from? And what's the hour on your clock? Drop a comment with your city and time. It's always wild to see our global community connect through these tales. Maybe you're in London at midnight or New York in the evening. Let me know. Now settle in. Dim the lights. Maybe grab a blanket to ward off the medieval chill. And let's slip into the year 1350. The Black Death has just swept through, leaving villages half empty and fear in the air. You're about to wake up in a world that's beautiful in its rawness, but brutal in its demands. This is no romantic ballad. It's a saga of survival, where every choice could be your last. Ready? Let's begin. Congratulations. You've just woken up in a peasant's hut in rural England, 1350. The good news? You're alive, which is more than half the village can say after the plague. The bad news? Your odds of surviving the day are slimmer than a blade of grass. Before your eyes even open, the smell hits you. Not the clean scent of a forest, but a sour mix of damp straw, unwashed bodies, and the faint whiff of manure wafting through the cracks in your wattle and daub walls. Bathing, a rare luxury. Most folks here consider a dip in the river once a summer generous. Waters for drinking or cooking, not wasting on your skin. You shift on your bed, a lumpy sack of straw on a dirt floor, crawling with fleas that bite like tiny demons. Your body aches from yesterday's labor, because in this world, rest is a myth. Whether you're a peasant, a craftsman, or a laborer, your day starts at dawn and ends when you collapse. No weekends, no sick days, just work until your bones creak. Modern life might feel tough, but medieval labor was a different beast. 14 hours of ploughing fields, hauling wood, or mending tools, leaving even young men stooped and arthritic by their 30s. Life expectancy hovers around 35, and that's if you dodge the plague, starvation, or a stray arrow. The air in your hut is frigid, maybe 40 degrees if you're lucky. No central heating, no insulation, just a smoky hearth you let die overnight to save fuel. If it's summer, you're sweating in your woolen tunic, which scratches like sandpaper. Clothing here isn't about comfort. Men wear rough tunics and hose. Women layer up with kirtles and chemises that drag in the mud. Laundry's a twice-yearly chore. so your clothes are stiff with dirt and sweat. Those vibrant gowns in medieval paintings, pure fantasy for the likes of you. Your stomach growls demanding breakfast. Hope you like pottage, a watery stew of oats, barley or peas, maybe with a scrap of onion if you're lucky. Fresh fruit, a rare treat, available only a few months a year. Meat's a luxury, often just a bit of salted pork or bacon fat to flavor your gruel. No refrigeration means food spoils fast, and scurvy, bleeding gums, loose teeth, is common in winter when greens vanish. Your ale, brewed weak to stretch the grain, is safer than water, which might come from a stream where livestock wade. It tastes like sour bread, but you drink it anyway. Coffee, not invented yet, sorry. Before you step outside, check your shoes. Simple leather scraps tied to your feet for rats or spiders. One bite from a venomous critter and you're done, with no doctor for miles. The world outside your hut is a patchwork of fields, forests, and danger. The landscape is stunning. Rolling hills, ancient oaks. But it's no friend. A sudden storm could flood your fields, a drought could starve your family, and wolves lurk in the shadows. The medieval world doesn't care if you live or die. You're a peasant, bound to the Lord's manor, which means your morning is spent in the fields. The manor system rules your life. You work the Lord's land 3 days a week in exchange for a strip of your own to farm. No cash, no choice, just survival. You grab a wooden plough, heavy and splintered, and drag it through soil packed tight by centuries of roots. Your ox, if you're lucky enough to have one, pulls sluggishly. Most peasants share a beast or use their own backs. The work is relentless. Your shoulders burn, your hands blister, and sweat stings your eyes. By noon, you've ploughed maybe an acre, and there's no break in sight. Farming in 1350 is a gamble against nature. The three-field system, rotating crops to keep soil fertile, helps, but yields are low. Maybe 10 bushels of wheat per acre on a good year. Droughts, floods, or late frosts can wipe out your crop, and hunger is never far off. The Black Death killed off so many labourers that lords are desperate, giving you a sliver of bargaining power. But don't push it. Defy the manor, and you could be flogged or lose your land. Danger isn't just in the fields. Tools break, and a snapped ploughshare could gash your leg. Infection is a death sentence. Doctors are rare, and their cures, bloodletting, mercury salves, often kill faster than the wound. Animals are another risk. A spooked ox or a kick from a horse can crush bones, and there's no hospital to set them. Farming accidents kill or cripple countless peasants, and you're one misstep from joining them. You pause to wipe sweat from your brow and notice the village around you. Huts clustered around a stone church, the heart of community life. The priest, likely barely literate, preaches hellfire to keep you in line. Religion isn't just faith, it's control. The church collects a tithe, 10% of your harvest, whether you eat or not. Refuse and you're risking your soul and your standing. The village is small, maybe 50 souls, half what it was before the plague. Empty huts stand as grim reminders of the dead. Your stomach's growling again, so you head to the nearby market town, a 2-mile trudge through muddy tracks. The town's a chaotic sprawl of timber houses, their thatched roofs sagging under moss. The streets are dirt, turning to sludge in rain or dust in heat, and the stench hits hard. Human waste, animal dung, and rotting scraps pile up with no sanitation. Flies buzz everywhere, spreading disease like wildfire. The Black Death might be fading, but dysentery, typhoid, and smallpox lurk. One cough could end you. The market square is alive with noise, merchants hawking cloth, blacksmiths hammering, children darting underfoot. You pass a tavern, not the cozy pub of fantasy, but a dim, smoky room where ale flows and fights break out. The drink is cheap, but risky, watered down or laced with herbs to mask spoilage. Drunken brawls are common, and knives come out fast. Violence here isn't the noble duels of knights. It's messy, often over a spilled mug or a cheating merchant. You stop at a stall for food, a stale bread trencher filled with watery stew, maybe with a scrap of mutton. It's tough, greasy, and barely edible, but you're too hungry to care. Food safety, non-existent. A bad batch could leave you vomiting for days, and dysentery kills as many as the plague. You overhear talk of bandits on the roads, a lord's tax hike, and rumors of war with France. The 100 Years' War is raging, and even here, far from the battlefield, it means higher taxes and conscription risks. The town's diversity surprises you. A Jewish merchant sells spices, tolerated because he lends money to the Lord, but always at risk of expulsion. A Flemish weaver haggles in broken English, part of the immigrant wave filling gaps left by the plague. Women, often widowed, run stalls or brew ale to survive. Social hierarchy is rigid. Peasants like you bow to knights and clergy. But the labor shortage gives you leverage. Some lords now pay wages, a radical shift from feudal bondage. You visit the blacksmith to repair a broken tool, and the cost shocks you. A day's labor for a single iron nail. Goods are scarce and trade routes are slow, making everything pricier than back in modern times. A loaf of bread might cost the equivalent of $10 today. The general store, if you can call it that, is a cramped room with barrels of ale, sacks of grain, and a few luxuries like salt or wax candles, priced beyond your reach. You decide to travel to another village, perhaps to trade or visit kin. Travel in 1350 is no leisurely trip. If you're lucky, you have a horse. But most peasants walk, their feet blistered in crude shoes. The roads, a little more than dirt paths, rutted by carts and treacherous in rain. Bandits are a real threat. Desperate men, often plague survivors, rob travelers with no sheriff to stop them. A lone traveler like you is an easy mark. The landscape is breathtaking, forest teeming with game, fields golden with barley. But danger is everywhere. Wolves and boars roam the woods, and a wrong step could mean a broken leg or worse. Navigation relies on landmarks like a gnarled oak or a river bend, but they're easy to miss. Get lost, and you're facing starvation or exposure. Weather is another killer. A sudden storm can turn paths to rivers, and hypothermia claims those caught unprepared. The peasants' revolt of 1381 is decades away, but already resentment against lords festers, and travellers might face angry mobs or tax collectors. If you join a merchant caravan, you're safer, but not secure. Carts jolt over ruts, with no suspension to cushion the ride. Wagon sickness leaves you nauseous, and breakdowns are common. Fixing an axle in the rain is a test of endurance. River crossings are deadly. Fords overflow, and makeshift rafts capsize. Drowning is a leading cause of death for travelers. Disease travels with you. Fleas in your clothes carry plague, and shared water sources spread dysentery. The average traveler's life expectancy on a long journey drops to weeks. You pass a shrine, a common site where pilgrims pray for safety. Religion shapes every step, superstition too. A strange bird call might be an omen, and you whisper a prayer to Saint Christopher, patron of travelers. The church's grip is iron, dictating morality and taxes, but it's also a lifeline, offering alms or shelter in a pinch. Back in the village, you join a communal meal, a rare break from toil. The food is familiar, pottage, bread, ale, but the gathering feels vital. Neighbors share stories, sing ballads, or play dice, though the church frowns on gambling. Music comes from a battered lute or a shepherd's pipe, not the grand orchestras of fantasy. These moments of connection are precious, easing the isolation that drives some to village madness, a despair born of endless work and loneliness. The village is diverse but tense. A French labourer fleeing war faces suspicion. A leper banished to the outskirts begs for scraps, shunned for fear of contagion. Women, vital to survival, face strict roles, cooking, weaving, birthing. But some defy norms, running alehouses or working fields alone. The plague has upended gender roles, with widows taking on men's tasks. Still, women lack rights. A husband's word is law, and domestic violence is ignored. Conflict simmers. A dispute over land boundaries could spark a brawl, and feuds between families last generations. The Lord's men patrol, enforcing his will, but justice is brutal. Thieves lose hands and poachers hang. The church courts punish moral sins, like adultery, with public shaming. Vigilante justice fills gaps where lords or sheriffs fail, but is often mob rule. targeting outsiders or the accused without proof. You hear whispers of rebellion. The Black Death killed so many that laborers are scarce, giving peasants leverage to demand wages or freedom. Lords push back and tensions flare. The peasants' revolt is coming, though you don't know it yet. For now, you navigate a world where power is everything, and you're at the bottom. As night falls, you return to your hut. The darkness is absolute. No streetlights, just a flickering candle that risks setting the thatch ablaze. Fire is a constant threat. Entire villages burn when sparks catch. You're exhausted, your body aching, your mind heavy with the day's threats. Sleep is fitful on your straw pallet, with rats scurrying and the wind howling through gaps in the walls. You reflect on the day's challenges. This isn't the medieval world of shining armor or courtly love. It's a grind of labor, hunger, and fear. Yet there's beauty. The starlit sky, unpolluted by modern lights, stretches like a tapestry. The community, despite its flaws, pulls together. Neighbors share food, help rebuild after storms, or pray for each other's souls. Survival demands cooperation, a stark contrast to the individualism of modern life. The plague shadow looms. It killed 30 to 50% of Europe, leaving ghost villages and fractured families. Survivors are resilient but scarred, haunted by loss. You wonder if you'd have their strength to bury kin, rebuild, and keep going. The church offers solace, promising heaven for suffering, but it also demands obedience, taxing your last grain. The diversity of this world strikes you. Peasants, merchants, clergy, Jews, immigrants, all coexist, but not equally. Anti-Semitism festers, and foreigners face distrust. Women and minorities carve out lives despite barriers, their stories erased from later myths. The medieval world is no monolith. It's a mosaic of struggle and survival. Dawn breaks, and you consider other paths. Perhaps you try your hand as a craftsman, a blacksmith or weaver. Crafts are skilled but grueling. A blacksmith hammers iron in a sweltering forge, risking burns or crushed hands. Weavers spend hours at looms, their eyes straining in dim light. Guilds control trades, demanding fees and loyalty, but they offer protection from competition. Accidents are common. Unguarded tools maim, and dust from wool or metal poisons lungs. Or maybe you're a merchant, trading wool or spices. It's lucrative, but risky. Ships sink, caravans are robbed, and debt can ruin you. Banks barely exist. Moneylenders charge crippling interest. The Hanseatic League, a trade network, brings wealth, but also rivalry. And cheating merchants face the pillory. If you're a woman, your life is doubly hard. You might spin wool, brew ale, or tend fields, all while raising children. Childbirth is deadly. 1 in 20 births kills the mother, and infant mortality is 25%. Widows run households alone, but law favors men. Prostitution, born of desperation, is common but stigmatized, with disease and violence as constant threats. The knightly class, romanticized in stories, is brutal in reality. Knights train for war, not tournaments, and their loyalty is to power, not honor. They enforce the Lord's will, crushing peasant uprisings or extorting taxes. Their armor is heavy, hot, and rust-prone, not the gleaming plate of legend. The sun creeps over the horizon, painting the fields gold, but there's no time to linger on the beauty. You're back in your damp, flea-ridden hut in 1350 England, your body stiff from another night on a straw pallet. The church bell calls, a relentless reminder that faith governs this world as much as hunger or toil. Today, you'll see how deeply the church's shadow falls over every soul, from peasant to lord, and how its power shapes your survival. If you're enjoying this journey through the medieval abyss with Somnus Sagas, drop a quick like or subscribe. It keeps these tales alive. And hey, where are you listening from? Let me know your city and time in the comments. You rise, wincing as your joints protest, and pull on your scratchy tunic. The bell signals morning mass, and skipping it isn't an option. The church isn't just a place of worship. It's the heart of the village, a court of law, and a tax collector all in one. You trudge toward the stone church, its walls mossy and cold, its steeple the tallest thing for miles. The air inside is thick with incense and the musty smell of damp stone. The congregation, peasants, craftsmen, even the Lord Steward, stands shoulder to shoulder, their breath visible in the chilly air. The priest, a wiry man with a nasal voice, drones in Latin you barely understand. Most don't. It's the rhythm of the words, not their meaning, that binds you to this ritual. Religion here isn't optional. The church dictates morality, time, and survival. It decides when you plant, tied to saints' days, when you marry, and how you're buried. Defy it, and you risk excommunication, being cast out from the community, and worse, from salvation. The Black Death, which killed half the village just years ago, was seen as God's punishment for sin. Survivors like you live in fear of another divine reckoning. You whisper prayers to ward off plague, drought, or the devil himself, because superstition is as real as the mud on your shoes. The priest demands your tithe, 10% of your grain, eggs, or livestock. It's non-negotiable, even if your family's starving. The church's wealth is staggering. Monasteries own vast lands, and bishops live like lords while you scrape by. Yet it's also a lifeline. The church runs almshouses for the destitute, and its festivals, Michaelmas, Easter, offer rare days of feasting and rest. You resent its grip, but rely on its structure. Without it, the village might unravel. After Mass, you overhear whispers of a heretic trial. The church courts, separate from the Lord's justice, punish sins like blasphemy or adultery. A woman accused of witchcraft, maybe she brewed a healing potion that failed, faces public shaming or worse. Burning at the stake is rare, but fear of it keeps everyone in line. The church's power isn't just spiritual, it's political. It mediates disputes, records births, and enforces social order. You're grateful for its stability, but wary of its reach. Outside, you notice a group of pilgrims passing through, their cloaks dusty from the road. Pilgrimage is a sacred act, but is also a chance to escape the village's grind. They're headed to Canterbury, seeking miracles at St. Thomas Becket's shrine. Travel is dangerous, bandits, disease, exposure, but faith drives them. You consider joining, but the cost, food, tolls, and risk, leaving your fields untended, are too high. Besides, the church frowns on peasants wandering too far from their duties. As you return to your fields, you reflect on the church's paradox. It offers hope, eternal life, community, but demands obedience and sacrifice. Its bells mark your days, its rules shape your choices, and its threat of damnation keeps you awake at night. In this world, faith is both comfort and chain, and you navigate it as carefully as you do a stormy road. The sun climbs higher, and you're summoned to the Lord's manor to fulfill your feudal obligations. The manor house looms over the village, a timber hall with a thatched roof, not the grand castle of fairy tales. It's sturdy but draughty, surrounded by barns and a walled garden where the Lord's wife grows herbs. You're here to work the Lord's domain, the land he keeps for himself, as part of your duty as a villain, a peasant bound to the manor. 3 days a week, you toil for him, leaving your own fields to fend for themselves. You're handed a scythe to cut hay, a task that sounds simple, but blisters your hands within minutes. The tool's wooden handle is worn smooth, but the blade is dull, making each swing a battle against the tough grass. The steward, a sharp-eyed man in a fine tunic, watches closely, ready to report slackers to the Lord. Punishment for shirking could mean a fine you can't pay, or a day in the stocks, where villagers pelt you with rotten vegetables. The work is relentless. Bend, swing, gather, repeat. Under a sun that burns your neck or rain that soaks you to the bone. Feudalism is the backbone of this world. The Lord provides protection, or so he claims, and land to farm. But in return, you owe him labor, crops, and loyalty. The Black Death has shaken this system. Too many workers died, and survivors like you demand wages, angering lords used to free labor. Some peasants are fleeing to towns, seeking freedom as craftsmen or laborers. But if you're caught, you'll be dragged back in chains. Freedom is a dream, not a right. The manor buzzes with activity. Servants churn butter, maids scrub floors, and a blacksmith hammers horseshoes. The Lord himself, a grizzled knight, rarely appears. He's off fighting in France or collecting taxes. His wife, stern but practical, oversees the household. Women here wield power in their own way, managing food stores or settling disputes among servants, but they're still subject to men's laws. You overhear a servant girl whisper about a beating she got for spilling ale. Domestic violence is a private matter, with no recourse. Lunch is a brief respite, a hunk of rye bread and a sip of ale, shared with other labourers. You sit on the grass, swatting flies, and listen to tales of the Lord's latest tax hike. Resentment simmers, but rebellion is risky. Wat Tyler's revolt is decades away, but the seeds are here. The manor system binds you, yet its cracks are showing. You wonder if you'll live to see it crumble. As dust settles, you trudge back to the village, the weight of the day heavy on your shoulders. The sky is a bruised purple, and the air carries the scent of wood smoke and damp earth. You're invited to a neighbour's hut for a communal supper, a rare chance to share food and stories. The meal is predictable, pottage with a hint of leek, bread hard as stone, and weak ale. But the warmth of company eases the ache in your bones. A fiddler plays a mournful tune, and children chase each other, oblivious to the fragility of their world. The talk turns to loss. The Black Death lingers in every conversation. Everyone has buried someone. Your neighbour, a weathered woman named Agnes, speaks of losing 3 children to the plague and her husband to a fever last winter. She works her fields alone now, her hands gnarled like tree roots. Child mortality is brutal. 25% of children die before age 5, from diseases like measles or whooping cough, or accidents like falling into a hearth. Modern medicine could save them, but here, a cough is a death knell. You notice the village's emptiness. Half the huts stand abandoned, their roofs caving in. The plague killed 30 or 50% of Europe, and recovery is slow. Survivors are resilient, but haunted, their faith tested by loss. Agnes clings to her rosary, praying for her children's souls, but others curse God for their suffering. Prairie madness has a medieval cousin. Some villagers, isolated and grieving, slip into despair, abandoning their fields or wandering into the woods, never seen again. The diversity of the village strikes you again. A Jewish family, tolerated for their trade skills, keeps to themselves, fearing pogroms like those in nearby York. A Scottish peddler, fleeing border wars, barters cloth for food. Women, vital to survival, face unique burdens. Childbirth kills 1 in 20 mothers, and widows must navigate a world that denies them property rights. Yet some thrive, running alehouses or midwifing births, their strength defying the era's constraints. As night deepens, you return to your hut. The darkness is total, broken only by a tallow candle's flicker. You're careful. Fires spark easily, and a blaze could destroy the village. Sleep comes slowly, the day's losses echoing in your mind. The medieval world is a crucible, forging resilience but breaking many. You wonder if you'd have the strength to bury kin and keep going, as these people do day after day. Dawn breaks and you're awake before the sun, the cold biting your skin. Today you'll venture beyond the village, to a market fair in a nearby town, a glimpse of the wider medieval world. The road is a muddy slog, and you join a caravan of traders for safety. The cart jolts, rattling your bones, and dust chokes the air. Travel is a gamble. Bandits, wolves, or a broken axle could strand you. The fair, held under the Lord's charter, draws people from miles around, a chaotic blend of commerce, conflict, and change. The fairground is a riot of colour and noise. Merchants shout over bleating sheep, jugglers toss apples, and a preacher warns of hellfire. Stalls sell wool, salt, and rare spices like pepper worth more than gold. You're shocked by prices. A chicken costs a day's wages, a knife the equivalent of $50 today. Bartering is common, but coin, silver pennies, is scarce, and counterfeit money circulates. You spot a money changer, likely Jewish, working under heavy guard. His trade is vital, but makes him a target for resentment. The fair reveals the medieval world's diversity. Flemish weavers sell cloth, their accents thick. A Saracen trader, rare this far north, offers silk. His presence, a reminder of the Crusades' lingering impact. Black sailors, likely from Mediterranean ports, unload goods, their skills valued but their difference noted. Women hawk pies or men clothes, some widowed by plague or war. The labour shortage empowers them, but social norms keep them tethered. Unmarried women face suspicion, and fallen women risk exile. The fair also hums with tension. A dispute over a short-weighted sack of grain sparks a brawl, knives flashing before the Lord's men intervene. Justice is swift. Thieves are flogged, cheats branded. The church's presence looms. A friar collects alms, eyeing the crowd for heresy. The 100 Years' War drains resources, and rumours of new taxes stir unrest. The Black Death has shifted power. Peasants demand wages, and lords tighten their grip. You sense the stirrings of rebellion. Though it's years away, you buy a pie, its crust tough but warm, and eat under an oak. The world feels vast, yet claustrophobic. Trade connects distant lands, but your life is bound to this village. The fair offers a glimpse of freedom, but returning to your hut, you feel the weight of feudal ties. Change is coming, but for now survival demands you play your part in this rigid world. Night falls. You're last in this medieval world. You're back in your hut, the darkness thick, the air heavy with the scent of earth and smoke. The day's journey to the fair lingers, its vibrancy, its dangers, its hints of a shifting world. You lie on your straw pallet, fleas nipping, and reflect on what you've seen. This isn't the medieval dream of knights and maidens. It's a brutal, beautiful struggle where every day tests your body and soul. The resilience of these people humbles you. They plough fields knowing drought might claim their crops, pray knowing the plague could return, love knowing death is near. The Black Death reshaped their world, killing millions but cracking the feudal order. Peasants like you are starting to demand wages, even freedom, a radical notion in a world ruled by lords and church. The seeds of the modern world, individual rights, labor markets, are here, buried in the mud. The diversity of this era surprises you. Jews, foreigners, women, laborers, all contribute, yet face barriers. Their stories, often erased from history, are the backbone of this society. The church, both oppressor and anchor, binds them, its bells marking time, its laws shaping lives. The natural world, too, is a character. Its beauty, starlit skies, rolling hills, contrasts its cruelty, floods, wolves, famine. You've seen how people exploit it, felling forests and draining marshes with no thought for the future. As sleep creeps in, you hear the village settle. The crackle of hearths, a baby's cry, a dog's bark. These sounds, so different from modern noise, connect you to the past. The medieval folk faced a world we'd struggle to survive, yet they built communities, raised children, and dreamed under the same stars. Their legacy, towns, laws, cultures, shapes our world, though their sacrifices are often forgotten. You drift off, wondering what they'd think of your time. Electric lights, medicine, abundance. Would they envy your ease or pity your distance from the raw pulse of life? The medieval abyss, stripped of romance, reveals human endurance at its core. It's a saga of survival, not glory, and you've lived it, if only for a moment. And so, your time in the medieval abyss fades, like a dream dissolving at dawn. You've walked the muddy paths of 1350 England, felt the ache of endless toil, tasted the bland pottage, and faced the ever-present spectre of death. This wasn't the chivalric romance of legend. It was a world of grit, loss, and stubborn resilience. The people who lived here weren't heroes or villains, just humans clawing for survival against odds we can barely fathom. Their legacy, the towns, laws, and cultures that shaped our world, built on their sweat and sacrifice. Thanks for joining me on this Somnus Sagas journey. If this tale of medieval survival stirred something in you, hit that like or subscribe. It keeps these stories alive. And don't forget to drop a comment. Where are you? And what time is it? I love seeing our community span the globe, united by these glimpses into the past. As you return to your world of electric lights, clean water, and safety nets, carry a piece of this saga with you. The medieval folk faced a brutal reality, yet found moments of beauty. Starlit skies, shared songs, the stubborn hope of a better harvest. Maybe their resilience can inspire us to face our own challenges with a little more grit. Until next time, sleep well, dream deep, and keep chasing the sagas of history.